This is Hannibal here with a huge Wrestling Observer newsletter review. Christmas 2023. Hope everyone's enjoying the holidays. WWE had their biggest house show of the year, December 26th at MSG. The big draw there was CM Punk returning to WWE for his first match in over 10 years. And it was the company's largest house show crowd in North America in years and biggest US gate in history, drawing over, well, 14,300 paid. And to compare that to other years, Meltzer has put from 2010 on. So let's go through it for all of you attendance nerds out there. 2010, Cena versus Wade Barrett in a cage, 14,500. 11, 14,000. CM Punk versus The Miz in a cage match. 12. John Cena versus Dolph Ziggler in a cage match. I never realized Dolph Ziggler ever main evented Madison Square Garden. 2000. He is a free agent now. 2013, 14,000. Cena versus Randy Orton. Obviously, Cena is a good draw. 2014. Cena versus Seth Rollins in a street fight, 14,000. 2015. Here's we start to see Cena's popularity drop a bit. 13,000. Cena versus Alberto Del Rio, who is back on the Indies. Even though his charges were all dropped against him, it seems that he's still blacklisted. 2016, 13,000 for AJ Styles, who I once beat twice in one night against John Cena, against Dean Ambrose. 2017, 13,000 for Cena versus Roman Reigns. 2018, 13,032 for Ronda Rousey against Nia Jax. 2019, we see a drop here, 10,000 for Seth Rollins against Kevin Owens, street fight. 2020, no show due to the pandemic. 2021, only 5,300 for Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens versus Big E in a cage match, but apparently E and Seth missed the show, and it ended up being Edge versus Owens in a cage match, only 5,300. 2022, which was last year, only 8,900, which was Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens versus the Usos. Obviously, Kevin Owens not a big draw in New York City. The SmackDown crew that also had a show December 26th, making use of the holiday crowd, had 5,848 fans in Baltimore this year. They were in Boston on the 27th, 9,626. I'm surprised they didn't use CM Punk in Boston. And then in Detroit, over 8,000 again. So very good house show numbers. Um, I'm surprised they wouldn't use Punk in Detroit or Boston, though. Those are major cities. Apparently, the Madison Square Garden gate number was over 1.2 million. And Sami Zayn was added to the Christmas tour at the last minute, despite doing an injury angle only 8 days ago. Triple H's wonderful booking. By the way, the WWE did go to the Montreal area last night in Laval, Quebec, which is an outskirt town of Montreal. They still claimed it was Montreal. The minor hockey arena, which honestly, I don't know why AEW didn't run the minor hockey arena, because they didn't have very big crowds for the Dynamite and Collision tapings, and the atmosphere would have been better in the minor hockey arena. Same with Ottawa. They're coming here for Collision in March. I looked at the seating map, and it looks like they're only using like 20% of the arena, and tickets aren't even selling that well. We have a minor hockey arena here that's right downtown with a great wrestling history, the Ottawa Civic Center. Why they wouldn't just run there, I don't know. I guess Tony Khan would rather run a bigger building, tarped off, than have a smaller building. It's better atmosphere, but that's his choice. They are going to have a good crowd, though, for AEW for their When World End pay-per-view, December 30th, Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, Long Island. It's about 8,000 tickets out right now. Meltzer says the AEW business is not that strong right now. He can't understand why in the markets they're not advertising it as Sting's last match in the market. Apparently, they only added Sting to the Nassau Coliseum show 3 days ago, and it's his last time wrestling in there. So, I mean, you could have made more out of the Sting retirement. Apparently, there's over 38,000 tickets out right now for the Wembley Stadium show next summer, and there's over 13,000 tickets out for Sting's retirement match. And more WWE news, and the MLW lawsuit was settled with WWE, which was basically all we've heard from MLW is this lawsuit. That's the only buzz we've heard, where they were claiming they had a monopoly on wrestling. Honestly, AEW affected MLW, and also I don't find it entertaining. I really don't find their program entertaining. They got a few good wrestlers. Alex Hammerstone, who was trying to get out of his contract, Jacob Fatu. I guess they're bringing in Matt Riddle, but this was probably settled to avoid a lengthy court battle and publicity. But they didn't reveal the amount of the settlement. WWE doesn't like to reveal settlements. They did settle with me related to my contract, and I wasn't allowed to talk about it either, but I didn't put out press releases about it like MLW did. The West Australian newspaper out of Perth, Australia, got some information from the Freedom of Information Act about Elimination Chamber February 24th from the government's tourism board, who's paying for the show, and they've made a request to have The Rock part of the show, and The Rock did tell a Make-A-Wish kid this past week that he might be returning to WWE soon. Wouldn't that be cool? That would be huge. As I said, when The Rock appeared on the first SmackDown under TKO management, and you heard the crowd of the pop, I mean, I can't remember the last time I've watched wrestling and like got chills when someone came out. He's called the most electrifying band in sports entertainment for a reason. He's pretty much the only wrestler, honestly, that could sell out pretty much any building he wanted to. You put The Rock on a show here in Ottawa, Canada, it would be sold out immediately. I don't see any other wrestler doing that. Yes, he is more of a Hollywood star than a wrestler, but you could still consider him a wrestler. The Authors of Pain are scheduled to return on the January 5th SmackDown in Vancouver. I have no problem with this team. I actually know Sonny Dishaw a bit. I like them. I just find it weird that they didn't do anything for like the whole time that they weren't with WWE and wrestling. And then they're brought back. It used to be. I know the whole business has changed, but I'll give Cody credit where credit is due. When Cody was not with the WWE, he had a huge buzz on the independents, and you used to have to like have a buzz about you to get signed. And now like they sign people that have been completely off the radar. But I'm not against that signing or anything. I'm just saying that times have changed. Apparently, Paul Ellering is coming back with them. Apparently, Gunther's taking time off because his wife is giving birth or gave birth to a baby boy on the 27th. Congratulations to him. Apparently, TNT Sports in the UK has canceled NXT. will only be available on the WWE Network in the UK now. Meltzer points out that regarding Raw's claim of being the longest running episodic TV show in history, he says the Portland Wrestling Show ran 41 years and Georgia Championship Wrestling also ran longer than Raw, but they can say whatever they want. Some other notes that are some delayed attendance news. October 2nd in San Jose, 9,624 paid. They had an over $500,000 gate. October 20th in San Antonio, they had over 13,000 fans paying over almost $600,000. November 5th in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, they drew 6,461, paying $399,000 in the gate. The NXT No Mercy show in Bakersfield, September 30th. WWE used me once as an extra in that town. That was when King Booker was crowned. They drew 4,306, paying $262,000 in the gate. November 13th in Washington, D.C., they had over 8,000 fans paying over $600,000. October 23rd in Dallas, Texas, the city I like very much, had almost 11,000 fans paying over $600,000. I'm sure I will wrestle in Dallas again sooner or later. October 31st in Glasgow, Scotland, over 7,000 fans with a gate of over $600,000. October 30th in Nottingham, United Kingdom, where Robin Hood used to hang out. 6,000 fans, over $400,000 in a gate. Finally, October 29th in London at Wembley Arena, 7,000 fans, just almost 8,000, paying $649,000 gate. So AEW definitely did way better than WWE in the UK this year. By the way, this is interesting. One of my favorite wrestlers, and I know I get heat for saying that, but he is one of my favorite wrestlers, took a shot at Vince McMahon on the Steve and Captain Evil podcast, saying that he had COVID and they needed him to go to Saudi Arabia and job to Roman Reigns. I guess he had COVID 3 times. He was still sick. And Goldberg said, well, if I'm going to do that, you need to give me a proper retirement match. And Vince McMahon promised him that and then didn't do it. He also said he wanted to be part of Sting's retirement, but AEW doesn't seem interested. Why AEW? Like, they make such a big deal for all these no names that only smart marks care about, and they won't like bring in Goldberg. Like, Goldberg would pop a rating. I'm sorry. At least give him his retirement match or a retirement tour. Apparently, WWE at the Minor Hockey Arena in Toronto tonight has 8,000 tickets out. And for CM Punk's second house show match, December 30th in LA, they got almost 13,000 tickets out. So CM Punk definitely bringing some interest. LA, another one of my favorite cities to wrestle in. Meltzer has a bunch of info on the Von Erich movie. Apparently it was number 6 at the box office. Took in almost $5 million. Total gross of $8,570,000. It was done on a $16 million budget, so they will probably surpass that over time. And apparently they'll be very happy if it hits 25 million in the gross. Meltzer brought up some points about it. Of course, I mean, as I said, I did a review of it. I saw it. Sadly, like, it was over 2 hours long, and I have a habit of falling asleep in these movie theater chairs that recline, and I fell asleep several times in the movie But I think one thing that really took me out of the movie was the guy that played Kerry Von Erich, and Meltzer mentions that in here, that Jeremy Allen White was simply far too much of a stretch to buy as Kerry. And he was like a the thing is, Kerry was always known as the brother with the best body, but in the movie Kevin had the best body. And that's something that I don't know, it just took me out of it. I will watch the movie again, not in theaters, but I'm sure when it comes out on YouTube or whatever, I'll order it. But it was disappointing to me, I guess, because of all the hype. I thought it would be better. Meltzer brings up that all of the brothers actually achieved their highest amount of fame when they were in their early 20s, which is different than today. Wrestlers get their most fame when they're older, but back in those days, the girls, young girls and women coming to shows to see attractive young men was a big thing. Colonel Parker even said it in an interview with me. The promoters used to hire attractive young men that the girls would come and see, because if there was hot young girls at the crowd, that would bring guys into the crowd. Now, if you go to wrestling shows, it's rare to see women. Very, very rare to see women that like wrestling. Um, Meltzer also brought up that at one point in time, Bruiser Brody negotiated a deal for World Class in Japan, where Fritz was getting 225 US a year to send talent over there. Most notably, Kevin and Kerry and Brody was supposed to get 10% cut for negotiating that deal, but never got it, and that was one of the reasons he left New Japan. In other news, Britt Baker hasn't been around lately because of an injury. The AEW Collision Ring of Honor tapings December 23rd in San Antonio drew 4,874 fans. December 27th, this Wednesday, Dynamite Rampage tapings in Orlando had 5,729 fans. And in MMA news, Conor McGregor has been complaining that he hasn't been offered fights. Meltzer brings up, and this is true, it's just like WWE. They don't have to make money from pay-per-views anymore, because like ESPN airs their pay-per-views, and WWE, they all go on the networks. So it's not like they need a certain amount of people to buy the pay-per-views anymore. So the name value of the fighters on pay-per-views is a lot less. Meltzer brings up that McGregor and John Jones are the two biggest draws, and they sit on the sidelines. But he does say that likely McGregor will fight during International Fight Week in July. Hello, Ralph. Wonder if the Dingo Warriors in the Von Erich movie. He's not, but they make a reference to him when they talk about Kerry winning the Intercontinental title, that he was better than the world champion at the time, which was the Ultimate Warrior. And they did have the time. They made it seem like in the movie, for those who haven't seen it, a spoiler here, they made it seem like Kerry left to go to WWE while World Class was still running, when he didn't leave until it had folded. Someone says Dingo Warrior was mentioned. There you go, but not shown yet. I don't know. I know Triple H mentioned somewhere that Michael Hayes wasn't paid anything or asked permission for them to use his likeness. Um, Everyone seems to unanimously think that the casting of Ric Flair was horrible in the movie too. So I don't know why they didn't use the Dingo Warrior in the movie, but he always talked positive about Kerry. There was a lot. You know what? I think the real life story. I mean, Meltzer even writes in this. They downplayed David's funeral, which was a huge, massive thing in Texas. Around 7,000 people went to it. They made it seem like it was a normal, quiet funeral. They never really got into like. They could have done more with how crazy the partying was. They made it seem like Kerry Von Erich lost his leg the night he won the world title from Ric Flair. Which here's what I found, I actually think I fell asleep right after this part because it was just so. I mean, it's fine for people that don't know the story, but honestly, there's so much wrestling in this movie. I can't see a non-fan wanting to watch it. It's definitely a wrestling fan type movie, but maybe if you don't know the story. But Kerry wins the title from Ric Flair, and they're just hanging out at the house after drinking beer. And then Kerry's like, I think I'm gonna go for a motorcycle ride, and he ends up. And then it was they acted like it was half of his leg, but it was really only half of his foot. But the amount of time that these wrestlers were on the road. I mean, at one point, I think World Class was wrestling multiple shows a night. If you have some time at home, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to go for a drive because you're driving on the road every single day. So to me, that was just a little silly. Meltzer brings up that they did keep the Kerry Von Erich foot issue a secret for a long time until the incident where his boot came off in a match in the AWA. But here's the funny thing. Supposedly he swam and showered in boots. And people thought it was weird, but nobody really thought there's anything more to it than that. I just don't understand it. Maybe everyone was just partying too hard in those days. But to see, you guys can write what you think in the comments, but like, wouldn't you find it weird to see someone showering in wrestling boots? And wrestling boots are expensive. And I've wrestled in outdoor shows in Puerto Rico where they've got wet during rain, and water definitely damages boots. So to see someone showering in boots, I don't know. I don't know how people could just maybe they're thinking, oh, that's Kerry. He's just so screwed up. He showers in boots and don't think much of it. I don't know. I forget if it was Steve Austin or Sid that I think told the story that they once saw Kerry uh, in his wrestling gear filling up at a gas station like it was completely normal. Like he was in his wrestling boots and tights and just pumping gas like it was a completely normal thing. I don't know. They also downplayed how popular the Von Erichs were with the girls in Texas. Meltzer brought up that like his ears would be ringing like he had just seen a rock concert for hours after leaving a show at the Sportatorium. The girls were screaming so loud. That just doesn't happen these days. I mean, here's a good example of it. Cedric Rougeau, who at one time was a close friend of mine, Jacques Rougeau's son, uh, who I mean, when I would like go to a restaurant with him or go out with him, like he was so good looking that you could see like the girls just stop and stare at him when we would enter a restaurant or bar or whatever, and he always had gorgeous girlfriend. He just has that this class. He did. I don't know what kind of shape he's in now, but he had this classic, good-looking look to him, and carried the Rougeau's name. WWE didn't hire him, and this guy is like your stereotypical. And he was a great athlete too. Had lots of potential. They didn't hire him. We heard the backstory that Kevin Owens may have like kiboshed it through his politicking behind the scenes and heat with Jacques. But like in the old days, Cedric would be a guy that would be money. But now they have like the Kevin Owens of the world that they push, and then they wonder what happened to the female fans. Yeah, they never mentioned Fritz's Nazi persona. And Meltzer did bring up in this that he finds it ironic that the Von Erichs were so popular in Israel, given that Fritz used to have that Nazi persona. How was the movie? 1 to 10. As I said, you know what? It's worth watching if you're a wrestling fan or a fan of the Von Erichs. But I mean, I would give it a 5 or a 6, honestly. but it's worth watching, and I'm glad they made it. I wish everyone a great weekend. Happy holidays.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews,